Hey.
Is there specific speed
I'm saying to
It
go
doesn't
for the
matter.
one backpack. Jack's coming back to grab some batteries.
We can have the mic ready.
Is there
Who's lavalier? Is this one already here?
So can you check it right now? It's like, they're doing sound.
Is that yours too?
How are you?
It's just like why?
That?
I guess, yeah. I don't know. I wasn't.
We got some noise?
What do you think?
Do we have some hum or buzz? I don't know. I haven't
I've
looked.
got buzz. You got
The audio is really modulated. Like it's.
Is there audio right now?
Like.
Okay, copy.
Okay, I'm not getting any audio at all. Is it online or is it on mic right now?
It looks like it is online.
It's online. Okay.
That one's online.
I can go ahead and set your phone up. Sorry, can we get a microphone?
perfect? Let me pull up the Facebook Live so we can just go ahead.
Okay, I'm not gonna get any.
Rolling.
Both of them?
If you're online, there's no buzz if you don't hold it right up to
Both.
your mouth.
Good.
Both are good.
And you can hear it?
Just want to test to make sure both mics work.
That one's good. Next one. A little
As
low
long
on
as
that
it's
one.
on.
But that
I
one's
know
better
it's
on your left.
probably awkward.
Yeah. I don't know why.
What? It's on. It's on. Okay.
On that mixer there, yeah.
So, are you guys getting static on here?
No, it's clean on mine.
It's clean on here.
Yeah.
It wasn't on mine.
Hey Steve, can you check again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Feeling good? Yeah. I'm like sweating a little bit.
Let him do his thing first. That's what. Okay, let's hear it.
Who's okay, these are my phones.
That's clean. That's louder, quite a bit.
Yeah, that one's better. Yeah.
Or turn the other one up. That one's good.
That one's a good sound. Yeah.
Yeah, that's clean on my end, gentlemen. You got buzz still?
Well, I got a little bit of buzz still. Yeah.
Is the power over there?
Trying to big it.
Yeah, maybe it's just that.
So you're on mic or line?
Yeah, it didn't work online. I had to go to Mike as well.
I don't know.
Sorry, Ryan, a couple more checks so we can figure this out.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Up to your, there you go. Like,
How about this one? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
let's put it in there.
1, 2,
Plug it in the line. I'm telling you.
7, 8, 9,
Keep
10.
going, keep
10, 9,
going.
8, 7, 6, 1, 1.
It's
Put
starting
this
the
down
video,
here.
just
Stop now.
FYI.
There you go. Let's get a little more volume on that.
That is not
Keep going.
This audio.
Come on, man. Give us some
I'm trying
volume.
to
Don't be
figure it out.
bashful on that one.
I think it's that one,
At the
yeah.
podium. There you go. There you go.
All right, try unplugging him and plugging him into a different one. Let's just see if that does anything.
How you doing? You good? Let's keep
10,
going.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A little more volume on that. Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
There you go.
4, 5, 6,
There you
7,
go.
8, 9, 10.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is everyone good?
That's better. Thank you.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
Amateur hour.
Now that one was good. Next one, next.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
You got to lift it
far
up.
away. It's on
Okay.
purpose.
Well, it's low. Okay. Pick it up. Give us a good test. Are you union? Because a couple press conferences ago we could use it.
I put it away. The mic is in the camera bag, the C clamp with the mic holder. Yeah, I know.
Can you go on Facebook and make sure, or have someone whose phone isn't dying to go on and make sure the sound is working? What?
Doing it that way. That's good. You guys are doing
Oh yeah.
college pass. You just have a cell phone right there.
Yeah. So we have both just in case, but oh here.
Hey Steve, thank you.
Yeah, we have it figured out.
I'm good.
Yeah, Taylor, it's working. We're good. Okay. It was just lagging.
Sorry, it's really bad.
Oh no, you're fine.
Yep, no problem.
gotta keep it.
Okay, right now, right here. Do you have a tripod? What do you suggest we put? Where it's out of I would go like on the side over there. Okay. And like where that green cord is. Yeah, put it there.
Yeah.
You could ask the guy.
Thank you all for coming.
And do it.
And I want to thank my colleagues from all across the country, representing our fellow Americans throughout the 50 sovereign states. And we stand together, deeply concerned with this unprecedented and unmitigated crisis at the border. I'm going to get straight to the point and try to set the tone, because we have a lot of concerned members of Congress here, and we need to move quickly in the interest of time. So you all know the record numbers of apprehensions, the volumes of drugs, criminal activity, gangs that are invading our United States. The chief mission of the federal government is to provide for the common defense of the American people. The President of the United States takes an oath to faithfully execute the laws of the land. This is not happening. People in Texas, communities along the border, and other border states feel absolutely abandoned by their government and by their commander-in-chief. But they don't have to be passive victims of a failed federal government or a derelict commander-in-chief. They have the sovereign powers articulated in the Constitution, inherent rights to defend their borders and their people. So this resolution, HRES 50, is not giving more authority to the states. It is simply affirming the powers that these states have to defend the border, protect their people, enforce the law, do the job the federal government has failed to do. And it's expressly written in the Constitution. Article 4 guarantees by the federal government to each and every state that they will be protected against an invasion. Article 1, Section 10 says when that protection isn't given by the government and there's imminent danger from that invasion, it is the responsibility and it is the sovereign authority of that state to step up, fill the gap, and faithfully execute the laws and protect their citizens. And that's what this is all about. I'm grateful to every one of these members who signed onto this resolution and are not just standing with me as their colleague, they're standing with their fellow Americans who are witnessing the chaos and terror in their communities and their schools, and they're concerned and they wonder, does anybody in Washington get it? So, to Governor Abbott, to our leaders in the state who are starting to step up and exercise this power, we are behind you 100%. Now, with that, I want to introduce the co-chair, not the co-chair, the chair, and our fearless leader of the Border Caucus, my fellow Texan, Brian Babin, for his remarks. Brian.
Thank you, Jody. And I want to thank you for this initiative that you have with this resolution. Because it affirms exactly what the states have the right to do and the duty to do. So there are no ifs, ands, and buts. The Biden administration is simply failing to secure our border as they have given sworn oaths to uphold our Constitution. They have abandoned Articles 2 and 4 of our Constitution. They have abdicated their first and foremost responsibility, which is to provide for the common defense and for domestic tranquility, to protect American lives and property. Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution says that states have the power and the right to step in and defend themselves from invasion when the federal government will not do so. Well, now is that time. The federal government is derelict in its duty. Over 1 million illegal aliens have flooded our borders this year. Right now, paramilitary narco-terrorist cartels are in complete and de facto control of our borders. They're smuggling in enough fentanyl to kill every American multiple times over. They're abducting, abusing, raping, and killing Over 90,000 Americans have died from overdose this year. Those drugs came from over our southern border. We absolutely must take power away from the cartels as we fight this war for our own safety and for our own sovereignty. In Texas, we're spending billions of our own dollars to assist our federal agents, but we are hamstrung by Biden's foolish policy. It is incredible to even think that we're forced to take this action, but I support Texas and any other state who utilizes this authority to protect its own citizens from a catastrophe created by the Biden-Harris administration. Thank you.
From North Carolina's District 3, Tar Heel State, our good friend Greg Murphy.
Thank you, Representative Arrington. I stand here from Eastern North Carolina. Eastern North Carolina does not border our southern border, but now today every border state, or every state, is a border state. Every state should stand in solidarity for what's going on our southern border. We convene under grim circumstances. The Biden-Harris administration has failed time and time again to address the crisis that they created at our southern border, forcing states now, as we have heard, to take matters into their own hands. It is a state's constitutional right and duty to protect itself when the federal government has failed to do so. Kamala Harris has yet, since she was named the border czar, to visit the border, now just recently announcing this, that she'll be going, seemingly shamed by former President Trump's plan to visit the border. Enough is enough. We cannot let our country be overrun with drugs, human trafficking, and narco-terrorists. We stand as North Carolinians in support of Texas and all the other states at the southern border, and we stand unified for this country. Thank you.
Now from the Lone Star State,
Thank you, and I want to thank my colleagues behind me that are from the non-border states, because this problem is so bad that members of Congress, not from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California, but from all over America, are standing with us, recognizing that this crisis must be addressed. The Biden administration took over from a president who stood up for our nation, who ensured that our border was protected. We did not have these issues until January. And for the last 6 months, we have seen negligence, we've seen a denial of this crisis, and only today has the Vice President said she's finally going to go down to the border to address the crisis that they won't admit exists. And so I urge my other colleagues in Congress to join with us. I applaud Governor Abbott. I thank my colleagues from states outside of the border area that are sending resources to our state. And I look forward to continuing this fight because we must secure our borders, and we've got to do what the federal government is failing to do. And that's why Texas has taken a stand and is taking this action. Thank you.
now our neighbor to the west, in the land of enchantment, Yvette Harold, New Mexico too.
Thank you. And thank you, Jody, for leading this charge. And it's no secret. We have a border czar who finally has decided to make a trip to the southern border, and she needs to, because she needs to understand the reality that we live in, and she will understand then why this bill is so important. And finally, it's good that she would make a trip to the southern border before she goes to Europe, because it's time that we put the American people first. This bill is so important to our states' rights, to our sovereignty. It's important that we unite and help protect the American citizens and put the American people on the forefront where they should have been in the beginning. Let's get our homeless veterans off the streets. Let's protect our children from the cartel and the drugs that are coming across our southern border. But let's do what we can to protect the United States of America. So thank you, Jody, my colleagues. I am proud to stand for this bill and with these colleagues here. Thank you.
I'm a member of the Homeland Security Committee, the lawman from Louisiana, District 3.
Thank you, Jody. Americans have fences and walls around our property, not because we don't want neighbors to visit, folks to knock on the door, because we want them to come in through the gate. All of us here support legal immigration. But America faces over 1 million illegal crossings this year. We're trending for 2 million crossings. We cannot allow that to happen. This rips at the very fabric of what America is. We must maintain our sovereignty. And if the federal government responsible for maintaining that sovereignty and protecting and securing our borders, fails to perform that mission, then it falls upon the sovereign states. So I call upon governors across America, representing every sovereign state everywhere, to contact your border state brothers and sisters. Speak to those governors and offer to share your assets, your National Guards, your law enforcement skills. We must, as a nation, stand up and secure our southern border, because we will not allow our nation to be torn apart. Thank you all for being here today.
Now our friend from North Carolina, Patriot Madison Copper.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our nation's southern border is ablaze. We are under attack, and right now the only thing standing between our society and complete ruin is strong state leadership. It's amazing to me that what's going on in Washington, D.C. is, as it's been stated before, a complete dereliction of the duty to support and defend our great country and our citizens. What's going on our southern border is something that can't be ignored. I'm glad Kamala Harris is finally going down to the border, but just going to the border to see what's going on is not actually taking care of the problem. This issue could be fixed in a matter of days if we had a president who was willing to act. But we've had to yet rely on incredible governors like Greg Abbott and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and even my own lieutenant governor in my state, Mark Robinson, to take action to defend our great country. If every single governor was like them, the federal government would matter very little. But unfortunately, that is not the case. I'm very proud of this resolution to reaffirm the fact that states have the absolute right to defend our country, to share their resources, and to defend our border. Because a nation without borders is not a nation at all. We've created a welfare state over the last 3 decades. And if we continue to flood our country with illegal immigration, we will destroy our capitalist society, all because the federal government has failed to act. We cannot allow that to happen. We must pass off a better America than the one we have today to the next generation. And the only way we can do that is we safeguard our southern border. I stand in solidarity with the great governors in our border states, and I call on my own Governor Roy Cooper to help send our assets to the border to defend the state of North Carolina and the whole country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. I want to reiterate the federal government didn't create these 50 sovereign states. The sovereign states created the federal government. These aren't administrative appendages of this meeting. And we have another fellow Texan here, and from the country, Michael Pratt.
Thank you. There could not be a more important topic than this one we're talking about today. And I'm pleased that the border czar has finally announced after 91 days of serving in that post that she's going to visit the border. And since this will be her first trip to the border, I thought it'd be good to touch on some border 101. Simple things that everybody else understands. Cartels bad, protecting communities good. Illegal bad, legal is good. Increased crime in our communities, human smuggling that leads to modern slavery, young women being sexually assaulted along the journey, fentanyl pouring into our communities, that's bad. Funding border security is good. And let's understand the difference between, sadly, the state and the federal. I can tell you that just recently, some weeks ago, about 10 minutes from my house, our local sheriff deputies apprehended a known human smuggler who, once they got looking into the data at the scene, recognized they had connections to MS-13 and ISIS, something we should all agree is in the bad column. This individual was handed over to federal authorities and eventually released into the public at large in my district. This is unfortunate. 2 weeks ago, we were at the border and talking to Texas DPS officers who apprehended a couple of cartel members who were toting some drugs into our nation. And they were the cartel members were kind of cutting up and laughing until they recognized that they were apprehended by the state officials and would face state charges and not be released into the public. This is the difference it makes when states can stand up and defend their constitutional obligations to protect their communities. We need to see that from the federal government as well, but I certainly applaud this effort for Texas to stand up and the other states that are standing up alongside with Texas for their people and for the people of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glad. Now, from the Palmetto State, South Carolina's second, Joe Wilson.
Thank you, Jody. And ladies and gentlemen, we, as a an attorney who has previously practiced immigration law, we favor immigration, legal immigration, but our country is under attack. The numbers are very clear, and that is that May a year ago, 23,000 persons attempted to illegally cross into our country. That's last May, just last month. It was 180,000 persons came into our country illegally and put the American families at risk with drug cartels, with human trafficking, with children at risk. And so I look forward to working with my colleagues here because we have a situation where all American states are border states. Thank you.
Our friend from the Buckeye State, Representative Bob Gibbs, Ohio 7.
Thank you for being here. You're probably wondering why somebody from Ohio is here, because we're all a border state. We're seeing drugs being shipped up to Ohio from the border. We're seeing local communities fighting that at a cost. We're seeing a catch and release by the Biden administration that's on steroids, shipping illegal migrants all around the country and up in the Midwest, and the cost from local governments. I was down at the border earlier this year and meeting with the Border Patrol, who's doing awesome work under very challenging circumstances. But I learned it takes one agent to patrol the border where the wall is. Okay, it takes 3 to 5 per mile. It takes 3 to 5 agents to do 1 mile, where it takes 1 to do 2 miles. And so there's a cost there. The wall and the technology we use down there actually saves taxpayers money, let alone all the other tangible and intangible costs that's costing our society across this country. So I applaud my colleagues here for fighting this fight, and it's time for the Biden administration to take action and solve this problem and bring safety to our communities.
A friend from fellow border state in Arizona, Representative Paul Gosar. Thank you, sir, for being here. Arizona's 4th.
Thank you, Representative Arrington. We saw the best of time a year ago on the border. We saw lawfulness. But now we're in the worst of times because now we have chaos. We turned over the border to the cartels. Operational control, they have it. And we as a people and as the states gave the federal government some limited powers. We need to hold them accountable for that at that end. I see the first right aspect of the problem. We now condone human trafficking and smuggling by not having operational control of our borders. We all believe in legal immigration. That's where it needs to start. Even the Supreme Court, looking at somebody coming here unlawfully, voted 9-0. They didn't have the right aspect to be able to stay here and get a green card. So let's get back to lawfulness. Let's get rid of the chaos. And this is a great way to start that, by holding the federal government accountable. I thank you, Jim.
Let me ad-lib here and ask Byron Donalds to come up and make a comment. Ron DeSantis was our colleague and now the chief executive of the great state of Florida, and he too is exercising the sovereign powers of the states, helping send law enforcement in support of his friends in Texas. So Byron, would you share with me?
Jody, thanks for doing this. This is important. The reason why I signed on to this resolution is so many people who are not, frankly, on border counties and border districts is because the security of our nation matters to every single member of Congress. We have a sworn duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And when there is no leadership coming from the White House, then it is the responsibility of the members of Congress and frankly governors across the United States to step up and still uphold the laws of this great country. I am thankful that our governor, Ron DeSantis, has stepped up to the plate and provided additional support to the people of Texas to secure our southern border. But it's bigger than that. You see, you can't be a young family coming from Guatemala or El Salvador and make that journey to our southern border without the coyotes and without the cartels. They are making billions of dollars trafficking people into the United States. And this administration is dispersing the problem on purpose. The reason why you're not seeing a bunch of pictures of children in Border Patrol facilities is because this administration is using HHS to dispense kids to unmarked hotels and tent facilities all over the United States. You have migrant families in the country illegally on airplanes going all over the United States, and it is being done on purpose. You see, a trip by the border czar is not enough. What we are calling for is action, and simple action. reinstate the proper enforcement protocols that secure the southern border. Because while our country is actually trying to get back on its feet from COVID-19, while we're trying to make sure that the people here in our United States have the ability to thrive and prosper, we cannot have gaping holes in our southern border that allows people to come into our country unchecked, and then the cartel moves them on purpose to also move fentanyl, cocaine, and every other illicit drugs, which sets our people back no matter where they live in the United States, whether they're in a red county or a blue county, a red state or a blue state. So I'm glad that our governor is stepping up. Every governor in the United States needs to step up, because the president of the United States has not done the job he is elected to do, and that is to uphold the United States Constitution. Thanks, sir.
And now my friend and fellow proud Texan from the 25th District, Roger Williams.
Thank you, Jody. In Texas, we remember astronaut Jim Lovell. If you remember his trip, the words he sent back when they had an issue with the capsule was, Houston, we got a problem. Well, we got a problem in the United States. And this crisis at the southern border is a national security, humanitarian, public health crisis, all the above. The federal government, as we've talked about, is failing. This president is totally failing. This vice president is totally failing. And when they're not sure what to say, they laugh. That concerns me. We got illegal crossings. We got drugs that are, quite frankly, many of you don't think about this, but the drugs coming across our border we talked about are going to do away with generations in this country. Generations of producers, generations of patriots, because the drugs we have coming across here from these violent criminals. My district, Texas 25, is pretty fed up about it. We have a problem. We have people that have not prioritized America like they should, and illegal immigration is affecting us. I was in the sheriff's office the other day, and he said, Congressman, he says, my jail is overwhelmed. We're just waiting for ICE to tell us what to do with all these folks. And I said, well, what are you going to do with them when you hear from ICE? He said, see that door right there? We're going to open the door. They're going to go out in the woods. They're going to go in the cities. They're hungry. They're thirsty. They don't speak English. Something bad's going to happen. That's on the hands of Joe Biden is what that is. Article 1, Section 10 supports Texas' constitutional right to defend itself from invasion. And this isn't an invasion. We are literally being invaded by people that have made their first decision to come to America is to break the law. I have a problem with that, and a lot of people have a problem with that. The Biden administration does not. So they need to act. We need people to know they can come through the ports of entry and realize the American dream. They can come between the ports of entry and they realize the Joe Biden American scheme, and that has to be fixed. So I would just say to all of you, I'm glad Vice President Harris is going to the border. This is the same person that's in charge of the border, right? She hadn't been yet, but she's going. She's also told ICE they remind her of the KKK. And she's also voted and talks about defending law enforcement. That's going to be a great moment, isn't it, when she comes to Texas, and that's her track record. I'm proud of Texas. I'm proud of Governor Abbott. I'm proud of my colleagues that stand here. This is the right thing to do. We love our country. Let's keep it that way for everybody to come across and realize the dream and not the scheme. Thank you.
And now from our friend north of the Red River, Sooner State, Oklahoma's first, Kevin Renner.
I'd like to thank my colleague from Texas and bring this resolution to the floor. I'm from one of those non-border states that's feeling the impact of the invasion of a border state. Oklahoma sits on the I-35 corridor, which is the superhighway for human trafficking and the movement of drugs across America. I've been to the border multiple times. If you've been once, you've been more than Kamala Harris has been. The person that's in charge of the border has never been to the border. How can you do anything if you've never seen it? But she thinks that's a joke. We saw all her laughter. You know, it's interesting. It's been 92 days since she was made the border czar to go fix a problem. Yeah, I find it really coincidental that she announces she's going to go after President Trump said he was going to go next week. You know, we don't have to look far to know how to fix the border. We saw what happened when you shut down the border, when you implement the policies that were implemented. We took it almost down to nothing. That only the bad actors were coming in, people who need to be arrested and put in jail. You know, the American people need the same protection as the people in this House and the people in the White House. We have fences around this. We have a border wall around the Capitol for your protection and for our protection. The American people demand and deserve the same protection. Again, love him or hate him, the fact is Trump's policies work. The American people deserve a solution. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to ask our good friend who's talented enough to pitch the sign on the podium and talk about the border crisis from North Carolina. David Brown from North Carolina 7th.
Well, thank you, Jody. I appreciate you taking the leadership role and organizing this. You know, this has been referred to as a crisis. Really, I think a more apt word is catastrophe. It's a national catastrophe in every sense. It's a catastrophe on the drug front. It's a catastrophe on the child sex trafficking front. It's a humanitarian catastrophe. It's a national security catastrophe. You got more than 160 countries represented by those that we know about who have crossed illegally over the border, who have smuggled over. That's just what we know. Imagine what we don't know. I need to think about what we don't know. Yeah, this is appalling. This president, this administration, they basically abdicated their responsibility to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And I'm a proud North Carolinian. North Carolina is the greatest state in the Union. But today I'm here to say thank God for Texas. Thank God for Florida. Thank God for all the other states that are going to step in. And I hope North Carolina, I hope our governor will send folks to help on the border. And the real unspoken truth here, and I believe this strongly, the real unspoken truth here is that the Democrats thought for 1 second that all these folks coming across the border would eventually vote Republican. They would shut it down tomorrow.
Well said. Some say there wouldn't be a Texas without a Tennessee, so we're glad that our friend John Rhodes is here from Tennessee 6.
Thank you, Representative Arrington. It is day number 154, and President Biden's border crisis keeps getting worse. We are feeling the effects back home in Tennessee. According to recent news reports, unaccompanied migrant children are being flown under the cloak of darkness to cities throughout the southeastern United States, including Chattanooga, Tennessee, and the Hamilton County School District in Tennessee, which is over 1,000 miles away from the southern border. President Biden, you have failed Tennesseans. You have failed Americans. And you have failed our nation in your obligation to protect us against the invasion of our southern border. Today I'm here on behalf of Tennesseans to support Representative Arrington's resolution that puts power back in the hands of citizens as we continue to defend our way of life and fight for the safety of our home community. Thank you, Representative Arrington.
And now for Florida 17th District, Ray Cooper.
Honored to stand with these gentlemen today and stand for the sovereignty of our states. God bless states like Florida and Texas that are willing to stand in the gap where the Biden administration has failed. We've seen record numbers of fentanyl crossing the border, record numbers of drugs crossing the border, record number of illegal immigrants crossing the border, terrorists crossing the border, and thank God we have states that are willing to stand up for the sovereignty of our country, for the safety and security of our country, and I'm honored to come from a state like Florida where we are sending officers, we are sending troops, we are sending law enforcement officers to stand for the safety and security of the American people. I call on all the other governors in our state because the Biden administration is failing, our border failing our country. I call on all of the governors of our country to send troops to the border, to send National Guard to the border, and send law enforcement to the border to protect the sovereignty of our country. God bless.
Thank you, Greg. Now, Representative Van Taylor from Texas 3rd District.
I'm Van Taylor. I served on the U.S.-Mexican border as a United States Marine. I was sent there during the Bill Clinton's administration. The border wasn't secure then, and it's a lot worse now. In May, there were 180,000 apprehensions, a 21-year high. The reality is that an unsecure border doesn't just make border states and border communities unsafe, it makes every community in every state unsafe. And if this administration won't secure our borders, then states like Texas should be able to use their constitutional power to defend their citizens. Texas will do what Biden won't.
Thank you, Van. And now, Fred Keller, Pennsylvania's 12th District. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate Jody Arrington for bringing forth this resolution. You might wonder why a person from Pennsylvania is talking about the border states, because I know that there's a crisis in Pennsylvania. My colleagues from Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, and from across this nation have come to help Pennsylvania. And we're here to stand with the border states and stand together. The crisis that we're facing was started by the Biden administration. And Kamala Harris, the vice president, after 90 days, we finally forced her to go to the border. I hope she's not going down there just to check a box, but to actually be humble enough to listen to what the policies of the Biden-Harris administration are doing to the American families and the American communities, not just along our southern border, but across our great nation. I stand with my colleagues and I call upon the Biden administration to listen and fix the problem they created. Thank you very much.
New York, 20 seconds. Claudia Tenney.
Thank you. I want to thank Representative Arrington. I do come from a border state. New York is one of the most porous borders in the nation. We've had problems with human trafficking as well as illegal arms and also drug trafficking that has been coming across our border. But the southern border is, I'm relieved that the Vice President is going to go. I'm very glad she's going to the El Paso sector so she can meet with the head of Border Patrol there, Gloria Chavez, who's a tough cookie, and I hope she shows her everything I saw when I went to the border. One thing I wanted to point out, a lot of people are claiming that people are coming to the border for asylum and that they have are coming to reunite with families. In my district, we have a DFAS site. That's a Defense Finance and Accounting Service. Employees at the DFAS site were sent a letter and asked by Health and Human Services and the Office of Refugee Settlement in May to ask if they would volunteer for a 30 to 120-day period to host and foster these children who have no family members in this country or being trapped across the border. This is a humanitarian crisis, and now we're asking our federal employees to actually step up and take care of this instead of dealing with the problems at the border. I have a lot of sympathy for these children. I saw the conditions they were in at El Paso, which is not even as bad as the Rio Grande sector. I hope that the Vice President acts on this and again doesn't check the box, as my colleague said earlier. I look forward to seeing her results when she returns. Thank you.
And now the Alabama's 1st District, Jerry Carr.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. As Alabama, we stand firm with our border states because we are a border state. Everyone in this country has become a border state overnight due to the drugs. Let me give you some idea of the drugs and what I learned when I was down there. 2.2 pounds of fentanyl will kill 500,000 people. 500,000 people, 2.2 pounds. This little pack right here, if it was fentanyl, will kill 500 people. This is the problem with our inner cities. This is the problem what's going on with all the crime we have going on the street. They're shooting, they're killing one another because times are getting tough for the drug dealers in the city. Mobile County, this time last year, a gram of fentanyl cost you $200. Today it's $40. Our kids are just being flooded with this, and there's no one here that can say they haven't been touched in their family or their friends or friends of family with illegal drugs. That's the biggest reason we've got to stand up to the drug dealers. We've got to finish the wall, and I stand firmly with all of our border states. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Illinois 15, Miss Mary Miller.
Thank you, Congressman Arrington, for bringing us all together today on this critical national security issue. In my home state of Illinois, constituents are especially concerned about the ongoing border crisis because we're a sanctuary state. Our border security officials are sounding the alarm on the crisis at the border. MS-13 and violent gangs are crossing the border and trafficking drugs to the detriment of public safety. U.S. Customs and Border Protection announced over 180,000 enforcement encounters at our border just in May, which is a 674% increase from May of 2020. Easy illegal entry is going to transform America into a sanctuary nation. We must stand strong and demand secure borders and safe neighborhoods.
And from the 17th District of the great state of Texas, Chairman Pete Sessions.
Jody, thank you very much. Today I'm going to be the cleanup person on behalf of the Texas delegation. The prestige of the United States of America is at risk right now. Our government and the world is watching has made a decision that we will not protect our own borders. We will not protect our own people, and we will fall victim to criminal cartels. The opportunity that the Texas delegation has is to be joined by members of Congress from all around this country to say that they too recognize that the drugs, the illegal people, and the cost to our society is overwhelming. We have invited and talked with the administration. We have been with the media. We have talked to people back home. And I believe that the American people well recognize that if you're sitting at home around your own table, you will look up and see that the failure of the Democratic Party to not even address the issue is staggering to them. We are once again asking the American people to recognize that we believe that the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate Majority Leader need to understand that crime is rampant all across this country because of their policy. Whether you're in New York City, whether you're in Los Angeles, or whether you're in a myriad of other states around the country, that the inattention to law enforcement, to making sure that people understand that law enforcement is the problem as opposed to the answer, is causing there to be lawlessness across this country, just as it is in our border. So we have gathered together as members of Congress today to respectfully ask that the American people understand that this is a time to pin the tail on the donkey, that it is the Democratic Party, it is the liberals within the party that control that party that are going to turn America upside down into a lawless society. We want to thank you for being here today, and there are a few members left if there are any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, grateful to my colleagues. I hope my fellow Texans and all of our American citizens living along the border are encouraged by members of Congress representing communities and states across these United States. I hope they know that somebody cares, and I hope the leaders of those states heard loudly and clearly that we are affirming their sovereign power to defend their border and their citizens. With that, any questions, we're happy to entertain them, and I'm going to ask my colleagues if they would like to respond to step up to the microphone. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Congressman. I wanted to ask you, so now we know that Vice President Harris is going to the border later this week. What do you want her to take away from that trip? What are you hoping that she gets out of it?
Well, first of all, I think you heard the sentiment from everybody. We are pleased that she's chosen to go to the border. It's 100 days now, almost. The chaos is burning completely out of control. But those American people living in those communities and in the border states need their political leaders to show an interest and to come and listen and to see firsthand what's happening. I will tell you, it doesn't matter what I hope she experiences. There's no way she can leave and not fully understand and respect that we are seeing complete havoc being wreaked on those communities, and the droves of people pouring in, and on account of the incentives and the policies that are rewarding people to come, the schools and the hospitals and the community leaders who are overwhelmed, the ranchers. She'll certainly hear from are ranchers in Texas who will talk about their property being damaged, finding weapons, feeling unsafe to even leave their families at home. So I think she's going to leave with the sense of despair and the overwhelming feeling that these communities have. And I don't know how she could walk away without a full appreciation of the cause and effect of this with their policies. And rolling back those Trump provisions like stay in Mexico, stopping catch and release, detaining, making sure people show up for their day in court. So again, it's a good thing she's there. I think that's enough said, and I think the people from the borders will speak, and she will be, it will be unambiguous what the crisis is doing to their families and to the quality of life of those communities along the border. Yes, sir.
Do you feel like the Biden-Harris administration owes an explanation to angel moms and dads for not properly securing the border? If so, like, what should they say, or what would you tell them?
They absolutely owe an explanation for the current unmitigated disaster. And we articulated the many battlefronts, the drugs pouring in, and the thousands of lives that are being adversely affected there. It's interesting on the crime front in Texas that she won't be in this sector, but in the Del Rio sector, we've seen a 3,600% increase in sex offenders crossing the border. So I think she owes an explanation as to why roll back the policies that were working, why not come to the border sooner and do something and listen and see firsthand the disaster that it's been. And I think absolutely there are countless Americans and families affected either directly by the crimes committed. I have thousands of incarcerated illegal immigrants in my district in West Texas. But it's either the direct or indirect relationship to the crime, the gangs, and the drugs. And again, it's tens of thousands of American families that are affected. And again, she's going to confront that. And there's no way she walks away without appreciating it and having to own it and take responsibility. And that's all of our hopes, is that they will make the changes necessary to put an end to this crisis and to provide some relief, not only to those who are being abused, making the dangerous trek, but to our fellow Americans who have seen nothing out of this White House and this administration.
Yes. Thank you, Jody. Well, first off, I hope that Vice President Harris, who Jody and I invited to go down to the border 2 months ago, and we heard nothing back from her. We would have met her anywhere along the way in the itinerary. I'm not saying this is exactly why she's going down there this Friday, but we do know that former President Trump is going to go to the border this coming week. And so I would like to say thank you to former President Trump for making the decision to come down and see exactly what's going on and see the results of the reversal of his policies that he put into place. And I hope that Vice President Harris will talk to those very people that Jody Arrington had just mentioned, the stakeholders, the ranchers, the people who live in these communities who are, it's not enough to be protected by your local sheriff. You're counting on the federal government to do its constitutional duty, and they're simply not doing their duty. They're simply derelict in that duty. I want to say thank you to our good governor in our great state of Texas, Governor Abbott, for taking the bull by the horns. He's listening to people down there who cannot protect themselves, who feel vulnerable. Their property is being vandalized. People are threatening them, and it's time for this to happen. And so I just want to say I hope that she will get an earful, and I trust that if she's a sincere person, she will see exactly what those policies of the Biden administration have caused down there on that border. Every state's a border state.
Well, let me just say, I'm really glad she's going down there. She's going down there for one reason. That's because President Trump has forced her to go down there. Let's just be honest about it. She's going to see something like she's never seen before. I've been going down since '05 when I was Secretary of State of Texas. It's as bad as it has ever been. And she owes apologies to this country. She owes apologies to America and frankly the world, the way it's affecting our world right now. So hopefully she'll get down there, she'll see what we see, her ideas will change, and it will be better. It will be better for our country. Look forward to having her there. But thank you, President Trump, for making Kamala Harris come to us.
Other questions before we close this out? Hey guys, thanks again. I know this was long, but it was important, and we appreciate your presence and participation. Yes.
You know, one more question. What action would you recommend the current president take to stomp out some of the cartels, the Mexican cartels, and the violence that's spewing over the border right now?
Well, their policies have not only made it unsafe for our fellow Americans, but they've empowered and enriched the cartels. I mean, one contributing factor to this resolution where we're reaffirming the state's sovereign power to defend themselves is the dereliction on the part of our federal government and our political leaders, Biden and Harris administration officials, and the president himself. The other key contributing factor is that everything that's coming across, whether it's the smuggling of people or trafficking drugs or crime, is only getting across by paying the freight to those in control. And that's that sophisticated, organized, lethal, paramilitary, narco-terrorist cartels. And I think that is a major factor in this. This isn't just a natural ebb and flow. This isn't just a season of increased flow of illegal immigrants. The policies need to be reversed. The policies of catch and release. We need just the laws to be enforced. The law says that you should be detained, that you have to go to court to prove that you have a legitimate reason to be here. We have asylum policies that need to be administered. And we would hope that instead of just, dismissing Trump policies out of hand just because of the president's name on those policies, that this president and this administration would take an honest look at the merits and what they've done to reduce the flow of illegal immigrants and to empower our border enforcement officials. They have been completely hamstrung. They are defunct under this administration, and they need to be empowered to do their jobs. Because while they've been distracted from their security mission, the cartels have pushed more criminal elements and drugs, etc. So there's a long list, but it's real simple. Start with securing the border and enforcing the laws. And then begin to take that honest look at the provisions that the last administration put in place that made a tremendous difference for the safety and security of our people and, quite frankly, the safety of those who are coming over because they know there will not be accountability. They will not be caught and detained. They will be caught and released and rewarded for that illegal behavior. So that's our hope. That's our prayer because we love our country and we put America first.